Okay, so for natural selections, whatever we learn here, they are a model for us to learn. Means that in the exam, you wouldn't be able to see, or most of the time, you wouldn't be able to see the exact example coming out. Okay, so you have to, actually know the idea of the selections, okay, how natural selection actually functions, why we need to have variations, and what so variation is important. So you have to apply into the question. So this is one of the quite difficult parts in your A2, okay, because you need to apply. If you didn't think of that, you may not be able to apply. That's one. Second thing also, when you look at these natural selections, okay, if you manage to grab the idea, then you can see that they are quite standard way to answer the question. Okay, so let us start with the natural selections and what we are going to focus in these topics. What are our learning outcome in these topics? Okay, so first we're going to explain the natural selections. Okay, so natural selections always take place. Okay, to control what? To make sure that even though a population have the capacity to overproduce the offspring, sometimes you can see that million offspring we have, but if you look at the number of the individual in that population, you can see that it's relatively constant. They won't be continuously exponential. It would be continuously exponential. And you can see that there are some factors actually against a particular type of the organism. Okay, a particular types of the phenotypes. Therefore, they result in what we call the struggle for the existence. Now, what's mean struggle for existence? So basically means that 10 of you, okay, try to imagine 10 of you go for an interview. So how you make sure that you stand obvious, you stand out as outstanding, you struggle, everyone struggle for the existence so that you will be favored in this case. So in animal world, in plant world, in the organism, you can see that the whole populations, all of them, so many million of them. So why some of them can continue to survive, some of them they can't survive, basically based on their genetic variation. Okay, based on the genetic variation. So for example, if let's say the environmental situation, okay, in environmental situation, favor the black color code, then black color codes animal will continue to survive. Because why? They are favored one, the favorite group. So if they survive, what they do? If they survive means that they can reach the sexual maturity and reproduce. So when they reproduce, they pass on what? They pass on the black allele to the next generation. Can you see that? So it means the next generations continue to have the black allele. So it means that it make the populations are more adapted to that particular environment. Are you clear? Okay, so this is the general idea how natural selection. So when talk about natural selection, basically we use the word the gods are the ones that choose who can survive, who cannot survive. But basically the god here means the natural factor. Okay, so what we call the environmental factor. Later we are going to use one of the example, a case study to look at this how natural selection actually take place. Okay, so then we were going to have explain the example how environmental factor can act as the stabilizing, disruptive, and directional forces of natural selection. So we're going to look at these three kinds of the selections later: stabilizing, disruptive, and directional. But always remember, whatever example we learn here is not the only example. Okay, so it means that we are going to see in the exam question more kinds of the question come out, but the idea will be similar. Okay, so we look at the population explosions of the rabbit in Victoria in Australia. It's a case study. So in 1859, only 12 pair of rabbits from Britain were released in the range of the Victoria, and because no and less of very few predator, then you can see that the rabbit feeds on this low growing vegetation. Means that now they have the explosions in terms of their population. Means that the size, population size, you can see that if I draw a graph, this is a time, and then this is the populations, number of them, you can see the exponential start to take place. continue. So this is exponential growth of the rabbit at the vectorial, right, ranks of vectorial. But the question here is, when the number increase, what will happen? So few factor, environmental factor now change to keep it down to a constant or a relatively constant number. Why? Because when the number increase, they attract predator. You try to imagine, oh, more food here, predator will come. Okay, next, what else? The resources, competition. Or not? They compete for the food, they compete for the grass, they compete for the water supply. So resources, disease. For example, in this case, infectious disease, because when their number is huge, they tend to stay close together, right? It's like something like COVID, so stay close together, infection rate is higher. So in this case, the rabbit also the same thing, they stay close together, so therefore, disease easily spreads or readily spread among each other. Okay, the populations, therefore, you can see that the disease killed some of the rabbits. So at the end, you can see what actually happened here. At the end, what you can see, this is a part of the times. So what we draw just now is just this part, exponential. What we draw, okay, just now, is belongs to this part. So it means that the populations now, it may continue to grow, but after that, you're going to oscillate around an ideal level. Are you clear? We're going to, what we draw this case actually from this part, only a small part here. Okay, so we can say exponential growth initially, but towards the end, the number of the rabbits are controlled in a very, very nice order. Based on what? Because of the predators, because of resources, because of the disease. So this, we call them as the environmental factor. So the change in environmental factor now will cause the rabbits, to control the number of rabbits. So this environmental factor, we can classify them under either biotics or abiotics. So biotic basically means that the living organism, abiotics basically non-living components. Okay, non-living, we don't say non-living organism, organism basically living. So we say the non-living components of the environment, for example, water supply, nutrient level of soils. Okay, for example, the fertilizer, the nutrients, so the plants may not be able to survive well. So those are called abiotic factor. So what are the examples of biotic factor? For example, increased number of rabbit, it increased amount of vegetation, so therefore nutrients in short supply. Are you clear? Okay. Now be careful about these nutrients, guys. When talk about nutrient, this is in general. So the nutrient here is for plant to grow. Okay, not for rabbit. Are you clear? So, but the example of biotic factor that come into the considerations of control the number of rabbits in this case is the biotic factor. Are you clear? So the nutrient level here can refer to the abiotic factor, for example, nitrate, right? Ammonium. So those are fertilizer, means our level, okay, in the soils that control the growth rate of the plant. But this example is specific to the case study. So a lot of students actually confused here, specific to the case study here. So what are the biotic factor in this case that control the number of the rabbits, basically nutrients? Why? Because they compete for the grasses. Okay, so large population also may allow the populations of the predator starts to come in, okay, to hunt for the rabbits. Okay, next, overcrowding take place. You try to imagine overpopulations, right? Too many of them. So it means that they actually overcrowded. So when overcrowded, it causes the transmission of the disease called, example, myxomatosis, because transmission by the flea. So it means when they close each other, means that now the flea can jump from one, can jump from one rabbit to another rabbit. So therefore, it can cause the transmission of virus past one rabbit to another rabbit, and then they will kill the rabbit. Okay. So basically, environment factor now tends to reduce the overgrowth of the rabbit populations. So if the pressure on environmental factor is sufficiently great, means that a lot, huge, effect, then you can see that population size now decrease. So start from exponential. Then over a period of time, you can see that it continue to go down. When it go down already, predator left, and then they start to grow up. Can I see that? Okay, and then predator come, oh, go down, right? Not enough food, not enough grasses. So now number low already. So it means that grasses have time to grow, and then exponential again. So it will oscillate around a mean level, a very, very optimum level. Okay, let's say for example, oh, in these populations, our capacity only allowed 100 rabbits. So any growth over 100 is going to cause this factor to be changed, and then you're going to control the number, reduce the number back to the ideal level. Okay. So in this case, you can see that not all rabbits will be killed. Not all rabbits will have a chance to survive. In this case, can you see that? So in this context, you can see that some rabbits were born with a better chance of survival compared to others. Okay, so it means that the rabbit now have to compete. Okay, and we say that it's a struggle for the existence. A struggle for the existence. So basically means that they need to compete, they need to check. Okay, they need to be to be outstanding in this case, so that they become the favorite group, so that they won't be killed, maybe. Okay. So what is the problem here? What is the issues here? Why some of them they have a better chance to survive, some of them they are not? Okay. Then we look at this. One of the features that may vary is the coat color. And this coat color is a form of phenotypic variation. It's a form of phenotypic variation. So let's explain the phenotypic variation. There's a phenotypic variation here because, okay, in rabbit, let's say, for example, there are two forms of the coat color. The coat color here, so you have this one, agouti, brown color. Can you see that? Agouti, brown color, and also the white. So they are rabbit. So if, let's say, there is no predator, when there is no predator, means that both of them will have the same chance to survive because no one hunt them. Can you see that? No one hunt them. Okay, so it means that they'll continue to survive. So they have the same survival rate. But now, if there is a change, means that predator, because the overpopulations now attract the predators. So when predators come into this habitats, what will happen? White colors then very obvious, correct or not? So white colors then very obvious, it will be against. So it will be killed. So white color allele won't have chance or less chance to be passed on to the next generations. Are you clear? So most rabbits have the allele will give them a normal agouti color. Okay, but some of them homozygous for recessive allele will give them white color. Okay, so now look at this. If agouti color is the dominant allele, so big A will code for the agouti. Big A, small a also will give them the agouti color, but homozygous recessive will give them white color. Can I see that? But we do know that under this context, these two genotypes or these phenotypes will have the better survival rate. Why? Because they are better camouflage. Can you see that? So such white rabbits, however, when talk white rabbits, they are very distinct. Okay, so they will be killed. When they will be killed already, so it means that they will be killed young and they may not have chance to reproduce and pass on the white allele to the next generation. Can you see that? Are you clear? So it means that because AA cross with AA, it becomes very, very rare. Why? Because most of the white rabbit, if sufficiently large, okay, these predator, too many of them already, all kill the white rabbits. So over a long period of time, you can see that this small a allele become very, very rare in the population. The only way this small a allele can remain, it must hide themselves. Can I see that? They must hide themselves in the heterozygous form. So what's mean hide themselves? Look at this. If the white rabbit crossed with a white rabbit, heterozygous and heterozygous, we were going to get big A, small a, small a, small a. But small a, because the white color, they'll be killed. This one okay can survive, this one can okay survive. So can I see that the small a allele now hide themselves? So at least they are they become very, very rare in the population. They cannot be expressed at all because when they express, it will be killed. These rabbits will be killed by the predator here. Okay, so the whole context here very simple, because the predator, so therefore less likely to survive. If they're less likely to survive, means that they have small chance to pass on the allele. Highlight, it's not the gene but the allele, because white color allele, okay, for the white coat to the offspring. So therefore the allele for the white coat remain very, very rare, and one term we use it actually is allele frequency. The white allele frequency remain low in the population. Frequency, we use the word high and low. Are you clear? But brown color remain high. Why? Because they can better camouflage. They can have the selective advantage. So what is the role of the predator here? When you ask the question, what is the main role of the predator? We say that predator actually act as the fox here. The predation act as a selection pressure. This is the keywords that you always need to use it. Okay, so they act as selection pressure. They increase the chance for some allele being passed on to the next generation. So in this case, predation by the fox act as a selection pressure. So those with agouti coat color, they have the selective advantage compared to the white, because they are favored. They can better camouflage. Okay, so if the allele of a white color coat, I mean, if the pressure is too strong, it may be disappear completely in the population. So we use the word disappear completely in the population. Okay, so the effect of such selections because of selection pressure on the frequency of the allele. Why? Because the white allele decrease, agouti allele increases in the populations, known as natural selection. Okay, so this natural selection raise the frequency of the allele conferring advantage and reduce the frequency of the allele that conferring disadvantage. Okay, but now, if the environment factor remains fairly stable, so means that nothing changed. The jungle, the forest still remain like this. Okay, you have the woods, you have the grasses, the better camouflage for the agouti rabbits, but environmental factor won't be static. They always change, very, very dynamic. Today you can see this, tomorrow may change already. So if let's say we enter into ice age now, we enter in the ice age, so we have the brown rabbits or agouti rabbits compared to the white rabbits. Now white rabbits have better camouflage. When they can have the better camouflage, in this case, they can survive and pass on the allele. So in this case, it's a survival. The chances for allele to be passed on to the next generation. So you have to understand here is nothing to do with dominant allele or recessive allele. So I want to point out here is when you are in, the rabbit in the jungle, big A, they are better survive because agouti color, better camouflage. Big A, small a, they have better survival rates. Why? Because they can hide themselves in the in between of the wood, so they won't be able to be detected by the predator. Small a, sorry, in the jungle, no. Are you clear? Small a, so in jungle, you can see that no. Survival rate is low. So if you look at the allele frequency, probability for allele A will be big A will be high. Probability for the small a will be low. Can you see that? But now, ice age. Okay, snow, winter in this case. Okay, so the surrounding turn to white. So big A, you can see that big A, they can't survive because predator come. Very obvious, right? You can see that, very obvious. Big A, small a, they cannot survive. So remaining one will be small a, Can I see that? So if the predator, the selection pressure is so high, in this case, it may totally remove the big A allele in the population. Only remains small a. Can you see that? Are you clear? So because of the change in the environmental factor. And in this case, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, why? Well, it doesn't matter whether it's a dominant allele or recessive allele, because if selection pressure is large enough, even dominant allele, they can remove totally from the population. Try to imagine that no more white rabbit. No more white rabbits. No more agouti rabbit, sorry. No more agouti rabbit, only remains a white rabbit. Why? Because white rabbits can continue to survive and pass on the allele to the next generations. Okay? So environmental factor, for example, the climate may change again and result in the selection disadvantage for both white and agouti rabbits. Now, let's say, for example, pollution take place. Okay, pollution take place. So the jungle actually changed to blue color, like copper, as in copper ions pollution. The jungle changed to blue color. Okay, because absorption of copper, so the tree become blue, the leaf was blue, and whatever thing blue. So if blue color, then you can see that white color rabbit also didn't get advantage. Brown rabbit also didn't get advantage. So if they don't do anything, the whole rabbits populations will be eliminated, disappear. All of them disappear. Both variations disappear. So in order to give them better adaptation, so random mutation that occur in the coat color in rabbit, it may produce a new allele, which give them a better camouflage. Let's say mutation take place, allow them to have the blue fur, for example. Okay, or okay, I mean the blue color fur. So if they have blue color fur or coat color, means that they can adapt, they can camouflage. Now you can see that probability of the big A allele drop, probability of small A allele also drop, but probability of, let's say, a new allele continue to increase. Why? Because as long as they manage to mutate, again, the remutation take place, give them the advantage, they can survive better because they better camouflage and they continue to grow and reproduce, pass on the allele to the next generations. And the changes in the allele frequency of populations are the basis of the evolution. If, let's say, the change is too high, evolutions can take place. Are you clear? So, for example, in this case, big A allele drops so much, small A allele drops so much, new allele increase so much. So that is a huge change in the allele frequency in the population. Therefore, we say that now rabbit evolved already, because initially they cannot adapt, but now can adapt better. So as long as they give them a better chance of the survival, then we say that they gradually change and will have the better adaptations to the environment, the changing environment. So therefore, when you talk about variation, important or not? Variation is very, very important. Why variation is very, very important? Because if there is no variation, you try to imagine, if there's no variation, you may say that, if let's say I kill all the white rabbit, doesn't matter what, when I kill all the white rabbit, brown rabbit can survive, then good lah, because they continue to survive. But environmental factor won't be static. Environmental factor always change. Like for example, if let's say all white rabbit are killed, no more white rabbit, only brown rabbit, what will happen here is when there is an ice age, no more white rabbit, right? Initially, no more rabbits, all brown rabbit also will be killed, and you can see the whole population cannot adapt to the changed environment. Can I see that? Okay. If they can't form a new variations, therefore the entire populations of the rabbits, no matter white rabbit or brown rabbits, all of them will be killed. Okay, so with this, I've done for the first part of the natural selections, a case study. Later, we're going to continue the next recordings. We're going to continue with the natural selections. Okay, we try to complete the 3 different forms of the natural selections. Okay, so with this, I stop recording first. You can take 5-minute breaks, come back at 9:05. Okay.